Gerald Vizenor is an influential post-Indian Anishinaabe writer and professor of American Studies at the University of New Mexico. He describes himself as a word warrior, an activist who uses stories to overcome Native histories of absence and dominance.
And I show how around the world, people who survive the worst possible circumstances, concentration camps, threat of death, don't write victimry. They write survivance.
Survivance describes creative acts of resistance to domination, oppression, and termination. People who keep going despite the circumstances. A good example are the children who attended Carlisle Indian School in Pennsylvania.
So much written about natives is like a declaration that represents the tragedy of our cultures, our horrible experiences with the federal government. I'll go to Carlisle, like Luther's Standing Bear. I'll go there for the adventure. I'll suffer through the denial of my language, the cutting of my hair, and wearing a uniform, because I know who I am. I'll do this, and I'll even take interest in this name Luther that's on the chalkboard, and I can barely pronounce it. And when I get back home, and he did, I shall teach. And he did. I shall write books, and he did. He is no victim of the Carlisle Indian School. Many children were. They died of diseases, died of loneliness, and I can't understate that. But that isn't our story. Our story is also the people who came out of that to create a new consciousness, to create a new sense of presence. Because not to do that is to die in the graveyard at Carlisle.
Vizenor's weapon is the native tradition of storytelling, many of which involve twists and turns and transformations, and of course, the trickster.
Best trickster story, I think, is just in this recent novel called The Chair of Tears. It's a story of an Indian Studies department, and they've had 5 chairmen, therefore it's the Chair of Tears. They've had 5 of the best and the brightest in the nation. PhDs, publications, honors, and they've all failed at governance. So they decide as one last try, they're going to hire the person with the least qualifications. So they hire a person who doesn't even have a vitae. And of course, in this story, he does the best. That's the test, a good story. If you tell the same story, if you tell a story of victory, oh God, we're dying, we're never going to get out of here, we're doomed forever. You boot that person out the door.
Vizenor dislikes the label Indian, which he says is a colonial invention of victimry. To get past that, he prefers post-Indian. He is a post-Indian warrior battling a history of colonial misrepresentation and termination.
This is sort of a Vizenor's Ark. It's the sacred books. It's the books I've written, the books I have written things in, and also books written about me, part or whole.
The books represent 40 years of work and are translated into many languages, including French, Japanese, Korean, and Russian. Like Vizenor, many post-Indians across the country offer new ideas of what it means to be Native in America today, such as Nicholas Galanin.
I left Sitka and went and did my bachelor's in London, England, in jewelry design and silversmithing. That was wonderful. And then I left London and went to New Zealand for about 3 years and did a master's in visual art. I think it's so important to create new work today with our voices as artists and new concepts and new mediums, because that's being honest to where we're at now. So if we don't pay attention to it now, then the next generation is not going to be able to have as solid of a platform to work and grow from. This is part of that series from the What Have We Become book project. So this piece here is Medicine Man. This is about 1,500 pages, cut and bound, so you can see it's a book. I used Bible for the hair on this piece here based on the idea of missionaries coming to the area here and chopping off the shamans' dreadlocks. In the culture, the shamans' dreadlocks were a source of their power, I suppose, and they would do that to humiliate them and try to like spread the good word of the Bible, I suppose. So this is just kind of a flipped version of that, cutting the Bible to replace the dreadlocks of a piece. So the book series is political in the sense of knowledge and information and how our culture is contained or controlled by institutions like museums and history books and people that write about the culture.
You know, all my life I grew up with I jokes. Almost every Alaskan born and raised here in Juneau, it's this expression that you say when you are kidding somebody. Oh, I jokes, I jokes.
Like Vizenor, Clarissa Rizal is a good storyer, a Chilkat weaver, painter, and teacher, and leader in her Alaskan Tlingit community.
I think that we're aggressive like that because of the environment that we come from. The weather, for example, the isolation. In order to survive here, there are all these tactics, you know, not just physical tactics, you know, but psychological, emotional, mental tactics to counterbalance the stress that can be placed upon you. You're out on the ocean. Are you prepared? The many, 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 many days of rain where, you know, 4 months can go by and not a speck of sun. That's enough to drive anyone bananas. And I think that it has created an aggressive, assertive people, but it also has created, it's made the people create a certain kind of strong imagery in their art. You can call me a warrior. It's exactly a description for me. People who know me well will say that that's what I am. Even in this little body. But we don't have to have battles in order to be a warrior. It's just an attitude, and it's a movement, and it's a forward movement.
Imagine getting onto Oprah and saying, I'm not a victim. You're not going to corner me in some sympathy for the benefits of your audience to make you and them feel better by my sad story. Sorry about that. I'm much stronger than that.